All right, so we started the recording. At any point, feel free to unmute your microphone and ask a question if you prefer, or you can put it in chat. I'm going to try to keep track of both. I know I've also got at least one other person in here with me, just in case I miss something. If you don't have a question, I would ask you to keep your mic muted, though, just because feedback is a terrible, horrible, scary thing, and my poor little ears can't handle it. But at any point in time, feel free to holler and say, wait, that didn't make sense, or you said it too fast, or anything like that. All right. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Actually, before I do that, I want to make sure, does everyone in this chat have access to Canvas 101? Like if you go to your dashboard, do you see Canvas 101 as one of your options there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Anne.
Uh-huh.
What about our other three friends?
I'm checking.
Okay, cool.
I'm Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
How are you?
Good, good. Do you have Canvas 101?
Which course is this? I thought I was coming in for the testing one.
Yeah, so that's part of Canvas 101. Canvas 101 encompasses all the workshops.
Oh, I see. I've already attended 2 of them.
Okay.
Is that okay? I was interested in the testing module. Is that a separate one?
Nope, you're in the right spot, but I want to make sure that you have the resource that all of these workshops refer back to, because all the workshops that we're doing also line up with this thing called Canvas 101. That way, if you need to refer back to a resource or refresh yourself on something that happened today, you have that available to you.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So do you have that?
Where would I find it?
Yeah, if you go to your dashboard, you're going to see the Canvas 101 logo. I'll go ahead and share my screen just so you can get a visual for that too.
All right.
So
Yes, I do have it.
Great, thank you.
I don't see your screen. Yeah.
I'm working on it right now.
Oh, all right. All right.
Yep. Great, so now do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my dashboard.
Uh-huh.
And it's going to take a moment to load because it's in the morning. And yeah, I want to know if you have something that looks like this on your dashboard.
No.
No? Okay. So Candace, what about you?
No, I don't have Canvas 101 on my dashboard either.
All right, let me go ahead and give it to both of you then.
Thanks.
Sure thing. Yeah, and it's, if you miss a workshop or just can't attend it, this is just a way to get the same information. It's just entirely self-guided. It covers the same stuff.
Uh-huh.
All right, so Kevin, what is your username?
It's Schulte K4. SCHULTE K4.
Great. And there he is. Since yours is in like that. All right. Yep, those are spelled correctly, I think. Yep.
I'm just on my dashboard and I don't see 101 anywhere.
Yeah, because I'm adding you right now.
Oh, I see. I see. I thought I was supposed to do something else. I'm sorry.
Nope, don't worry. So I'm going to click Add Users. And now if you refresh your dashboard, you should have a green invitation to the top to Canvas 101.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hold on. Let me check another place here. I don't. I'll go to my account.
No, go to your dashboard and make sure you refreshed it if you were already on it.
Ah, got it. All right, here we go. I am rocking and rolling now. Good.
Great, cool. Now for today's workshop, if you want to be in Canvas 101, you can. I'm going to go through all the same information like I said. If you actually want to build the things that I'm talking about and sort of do it as I describe it, you do not want to be in Canvas 101. And that's just because in Canvas 101, you only have student access. So you're technically a student in that course. Whereas if you go to some course where you're an instructor, you'll have all the grade out options. You'll have the ability to make assignments. So that's just a choice. I'm not going to like make you go to one or the other. Just be aware of that. If I give an instruction and you say, Nick, I can't see that, first thing I'm going to ask is, are you in Canvas 101? Because if you are, there's probably a reason why you can't see it. All right?
Okay, but we're doing module 3 today.
We are doing module 3. That's right. Yep.
Okay. Now I'm warning sick. Okay, good.
Cool,
Thank you.
cool. Sure thing. And thanks for everyone for just checking with me on that. I just like to make sure everyone's got it. So, like we said, we are doing workshop 3, assignments, quizzes, grades, and feedback. That means we're going to look at how to make assignments, how to make quizzes, how to grade those things, and then how to give feedback on all that stuff. It's a pretty dense workshop, so let's go ahead and dig in. We're going to start with how to make assignments. Canvas gives you many, many ways to make assignments. But the most straightforward way is just to click this thing that says assignments in the course navigation on the left. And if you saw in an earlier workshop, this white bar over here is called the course navigation, and this black bar is the global navigation. So I'm going to go to assignments, and then I want to make an assignment. I'm going to click this yellow plus assignment button and get to making an assignment. And this is just one way of doing it. So to review, I clicked assignments from the course navigation, and then I clicked the yellow plus assignment button. Let me come back to the screen for a moment. If you're on this assignments area screen and you can't see this yellow button, you probably have a tutorial open right now that's built into Canvas. And if you can't see it, I bet that right where my mouse is hovering, you probably have a little arrow that's pointing to the right. And if you click that, it's going to collapse the tutorial. So I've just seen that happen a couple times. Just keep in mind, it's probably just covering up that yellow plus assignment button. So I'm going to go ahead and click that one more time. And I'm going to give my assignment a very creative name and some instructions. And this box is honestly pretty similar to what you see in Blackboard. It's the same sort of editing box. You can put links, you can put videos. I'd encourage you to take anything that's related to your assignment and put it here. So if the assignment is watch a movie and then write a response, go ahead and link to the movie here in the instructions for the assignment. If it's to download some files and manipulate them in some way, go ahead and put the files here in the assignment. That way it's like a one-stop shop and they don't have to go to 3 different locations just to figure out what they're supposed to do. You can use this box for pretty much everything you need. In workshop 4, they talk about this area a lot, so I don't want to steal all their thunder, but I do want to call out one new button that's been added recently. It's this little dude right here. That's the check accessibility guy. So now you can click this and it will scan everything that's in this box and make sure that it's ADA compliant. So, you know, it actually has bright color contrast, that it's not doing anything that would not be accessible. So if I click it and I get some balloons, then hooray, my content is accessible and I can feel great. If it's not accessible, it's going to help me fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and make my content not accessible right now. For instance, I can highlight it and I'm going to make it really, really hard to read by changing the contrast. So that color is virtually unreadable, and I think that our little man's going to tell us that too. So I click the check accessibility guy one more time. And it says, hey, by the way, that's really hard to read. And you'll see this apply button is grayed out down at the bottom. As I make the color accessible, it's going to turn yellow so I can click it. So you can see that change that happens. Once it gets high contrast enough, I can then actually apply the change and know that I'm solid. All right. And so that's just the title and the instructions for an assignment. Beneath that, we're just going to work our way down the page. You want to give the point value. If it's extra credit, if the whole thing's extra credit, then it's just 0 points. That way it really counts as above and beyond what the total points for the class are. Otherwise, just put what the possible score is in there. And then beneath that, we have this thing called assignment groups. And so this is the first of several times.
Can you say what you said one more time about extra credit? I missed that part, I think.
Oh, yeah. So let's say that you have an extra credit assignment and you want it to actually count as extra credit. This points box should be 0. That way, any points you award goes above and beyond what's possible.
I got it.
Yep. Cool. Thanks for asking. Or pause. Any other questions?
Hey, my button was the one to get in there was blue, but yours was yellow. Does that matter?
It probably means that you have high contrast mode turned on for your course.
Oh.
That's it.
Is that a good thing or bad thing?
That's a good thing. Some people that have like vision issues like the high contrast because it makes it easier to read. That's it.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, sure thing. Any other questions? All right, it sounded like a no. All right, beneath that we have assignment groups. So let's see. Let me go ahead and pull up my chat for just a moment, if I can find it. Nope. All right, so I'll just ask, if you could just say out loud, does anyone use weighted grades, like at all in their courses?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. That's fine. This gets easier, then you don't have to stress about this so much. Assignment Groups does a couple things. One of them is weighted grades. But if you come to this area and click this drop down, by default, you're only going to see one group called assignments. So there's an assignment group called assignments. And by default, all of your assignments are inside that group. Think of it like a bucket. You can make new groups if you want to. For instance, maybe you want to put all of your quizzes in a group together. That's totally fine. I can do that really easily. Just click new group, call it quizzes, and now I have two groups to work with. If you see more than just what you know you've typed and the word assignments, then it probably came over from Blackboard. So Blackboard had a lot of categories which did a similar thing, like blog, peer review, journal, wiki, and all those can be migrated if you move your course over. But just know that those aren't default to Canvas. The only one that is the group called assignments.
Is this a gradebook categorization, or is this the way it appears in the gradebook? For example, I don't organize my gradebook by quizzes or assignments. I organize it by modules.
Oh yeah. So then yeah, this is a gradebook organization. This will affect how both you and students see the gradebook.
Okay.
Yep. And beneath
Okay,
that,
so if I organize it by part A, part B, I see I need to open up 3 groups here.
yeah, you'd probably make a new group and call it part A and break it down like that.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, beneath that is display grade as. By default, it's points, which is what most people tend to use. But you can choose something else like complete, incomplete, percentage, not graded, so that you're just like collecting things from them to review in a different way. You have control there. And finally, if this assignment shouldn't count towards the final grade, check off the box saying, don't count this towards the final grade. All right, so the next part is submission type, and this is a big departure from Blackboard. In Canvas, you have a lot of control over what exactly a student does in order to fulfill an assignment. So let's look at the 4 submission types. We've got no submission, online, on paper, and external tool. Okay, so let's start with on paper. What do you think a student is doing if the submission type is on paper for an assignment? Go ahead.
They're gonna write it up and send it in to you.
Absolutely. So it's a physical thing. If they're doing it in class, if they're handing you something using their hands, then you're going to choose on paper. And that's important to do because you don't want to give them a submission button in Canvas that they're not supposed to use. For example, if you're administering a test in class on paper, you'd want to make an assignment in Canvas with an on-paper submission type. Here's why. I had an instructor who actually built a quiz in Canvas for her in-class test that she did on paper. And one very enterprising student went in and did the paper test, and then after class found the online quiz and did that too. And in the process, overwrote her own grade by doing the quiz. And it was very scary for a moment. It was an easy fix. We just had to go back in and clear out that quiz. But that's kind of why you want to make sure that you choose on paper if it really is happening on paper.
Which score did the student get?
Also, the original one that the instructor provided.
All right.
Yep, so it was good. It was just scary for a moment. Similar to on paper is no submission. This is what you're going to use for any assignment where you just need a column in your gradebook to give them points, and you're not expecting a thing to be done for that. For example, participation or attendance if you track attendance separately. If you want a column in your gradebook, period, you've got to make an assignment for it. This is another big change from Blackboard. Every column in your gradebook has at least one assignment that represents it. And the only way to make columns is to make assignments. There's like a one-to-one relationship there. So if you don't want them to turn in anything, no submission is going to give you that option to just make a column without making students think they have to do an extra thing for that. All right, so that's no submission and on paper. Let's do online next. Online is directly through Canvas. They're actually doing something online and uploading it or typing it in. And when you choose online, you've got 4 submission types to work with. You can do text entry, which is where they type it directly into Canvas and submit. You can also do website URL, which is really similar to text entry. They'll type directly into Canvas and submit. The difference between these first two is if they actually enter a website address, Canvas will then load that website inside Canvas for you. That way you don't have to actually go and like go out and view it and then come back to give a grade and go out and view it and come back. This is helpful if, let's say, you have them run a blog separately, or you have them run a website, or maybe you're having them do things outside of the Canvas system on other parts of the internet. This just can save you some time when it comes to grading. All right, for the last two options, media recordings and file uploads, they're also really similar. The students are taking a file on their computer or mobile device, and they're putting it into Canvas for you to do what you want with. The difference is that if you choose media recording, they upload, let's say, like an MP3 or an MP4, Canvas will play that video or audio inside Canvas for you, kind of like websites, right? It's just so you don't have to download the video to watch it and then go back to grade it. You can just do it all at once inside Canvas. With file upload, you also get the ability to restrict which files they can upload. So a lot of people have the experience, well, they'll write out instructions for like a paper and say, please only submit Word documents or PDFs. And then you find that students will submit lots and lots of things that aren't Word docs and aren't PDFs. And that can be frustrating. If you want to make sure that doesn't happen, you can check off file upload, check off restrict type, and then you can tell Canvas which types of files it will actually accept. So in this case, I'm going to say only accept files that end with DOC, DOCX, and PDF. So two different types of Word documents and PDFs. Now, if a student submits anything that doesn't end with that particular extension, Canvas will kick it back and say, nope, that's not right. Notice that
are there any extensions? Are there any extensions that are, you know, for example, I have SPSS documents that they upload or files that they upload. No problem there.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, nope. The only thing you'll find is that if it's not like a PowerPoint or Word doc or PDF, it won't try to render the file inside Canvas, but they can still upload it. And then
when you say okay, so so it actually gives you a visual of the document, unless it's and SPSS might not count. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if you ever used Crocodoc and Blackboard, Crocodoc can't handle every file type. Same situation here. To do those file types, notice I don't have any comma, I don't have any spaces, and I don't have any periods. I just have the extension, comma, extension, comma, extension. And there's also an example of how to type it out right beneath this box if you ever need a refresher on what that's supposed to look like. All right, so let me uncheck that. The last submission type is called external tool. So external tool can be useful if you're doing anything with Turnitin, or if you use publisher content. Anything like that is going to be external tool. All you'll do is for submission type, choose external tool. Then where it has the URL, you can type it out, but I'm lazy, so I'm going to click find. And here's the list of all the tools that you can connect to. For this example, I'm just going to connect to Turnitin. And now this assignment's using Turnitin to check for originality. Any questions about the 4 submission types and like assignments versus grades, anything like that?
No.
Can we select many submission types, or do we have to select one type?
Great question. You can select all of them, but I would actually discourage that. My experience is that I had a professor who had them submit a research paper, and they had text entry and text entry and file upload checked. And so what one student did is they went in to file upload and they uploaded their research paper. Then they went to text entry and entered their name. And what do you think their submission was?
Their name.
It was just their name, yeah. So for that, I like to pick just one, just so students don't try to do that. Any other questions?
Well, here's an interesting one. I had an assignment out there, and I didn't put it in a group, and now I want to put it in a group, and now it won't let me.
It won't let you.
Yeah, because students have already submitted homework.
So you're not talking about assignment groups, you're talking about group assignments, right?
Oh, okay, hold on. Oh, there's a difference. Okay.
There's a difference. And you gave me a very good segue to the next thing I want to talk about. So yeah, group assignments, the second time I'm going to say the word group today, different from assignment groups. So assignment groups are categories, and group assignments are how you break students up into little groups of people, and they work on an assignment together.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I got that. I just like, okay, group assignment group. Okay. I just need to
A lot of people, yeah, a lot of people are like,
hit the dyslexia button. Okay.
yeah. And as Kevin just pointed out, if you turn on group assignments and then the group starts submitting, you really can't change those settings because of how they're all connected at that point. But group assignments are really, really helpful if you have, like 30 students and you want 6 groups of 5 people and you want each of them to work on something together. The way I have it, let me check that again. The way it's on my screen right now, if I have those groups set up, then when I grade for one of those students in submissions, every other student in their group will get the same grade as well. If I don't want that, and if I want to give each person a different grade, maybe based off how much they did in the group, I want to make sure to check off assign grades to each student individually. That way I can get the one that I want. Now I think in workshop 2, they talk a lot about groups, so I won't go super in depth here unless we need to. But I will say that here is where you choose that set of groups. And Canvas talks about the groups as a whole collection. So it doesn't care, like going back to the example of 6 groups of 5, it doesn't care about group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, and group 6. It cares about the set of 6 groups and how you want to assign this. And that's what it's referring to in here when you talk about this. All right. Are there any questions about group assignments I can clear up?
No. No.
Okay. Cool. Let me uncheck that. Beneath that, you've got peer reviews. So peer reviews are an excellent way to get students to actually give each other feedback. What you do when you check off peer reviews is you can either manually tell Canvas which students to view which other students' submissions, or you can let Canvas just randomly distribute submissions at a set date. So I will typically check automatically assign. I will tell Canvas I want every student to get 2 submissions randomly. And then I can choose what day that happens if I like. If I don't say anything here, it'll default to the due date. Otherwise, it'll happen at a certain point. And that peer review will show up just like any other assignment for a student to do. And you can always go back and start with automatic and then go back and fine tune it. If you know that you don't want like Timmy reviewing Susie's work because Timmy and Susie fight a whole lot, you have complete control there. And then the last area of making an assignment.
Sorry, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I teach creative writing, so they actually read all of their peers' papers at some point.
Okay.
So let's say there's 20 people in the class. That person's going to read 19 student papers.
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible to just put the number that high?
Oh, yeah. You could put as many people as there are. Well, I guess as many people as there are in the class minus 1, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks.
Yep.
Hey, on that groupings,
Yeah.
is there a way to, I have my own groupings. Is there a way to get, it looks like there's a global grouping of assignments, right?
Uh-huh.
And what if I don't want that one showing on the gradebook?
I would change the name of that one then, just to one of the groups you do want to use.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right.
Yep.
Good enough.
Cool.
Thank you.
So down in the Assign To area, we have control over how this shows up to students. By default, it's going to try to assign it to everyone, and it gives you a field for a due date. And this field for the due date is much, much more important in Canvas than it ever was in Blackboard. As you've seen in some of the other workshops, this due date sort of turns Canvas on and just sets all these things in motion for Canvas communicating when things are due to students. Does anyone remember where this due date shows up to a student?
Calendar?
The calendar is one of them. Yeah. Any others?
Announcement?
Announcements. Yeah. Yeah.
Where's that?
What were you saying, Ann?
Just announcements. I can't elaborate.
That's okay. Yeah. So announcements up here. If you have, like, let's say, mentioned assignments or linked to assignments, there, my announcements are grayed out. But those can be set to come out at certain dates as well. Yeah. Any others? Cool. Let's talk about some of the others. So we got the calendar. We talked about adding things to announcements. There's also a to-do list on the dashboard that populates with these due dates. It'll show up on the syllabus page as well in chronological order with all the due dates. And students will get a notification by email when certain due dates are due if you want. So it's going to come up all over the place. but only if this box is filled in. So like one of the big changes that I ask people to consider is to not stress trying to type out due dates up here where Canvas can't do anything with it, and instead put the due date here. Well, Canvas will do a lot of the legwork of communicating it with your students. Also, semester to semester, this due date field is much easier to keep up to date and current than going into each of these text boxes and manually typing out new due dates. That's another thing to think about. All right, so I'm going to go to this due date. I'm going to say it's due tomorrow, and then I've got an available from and until date. Is everyone clear on the difference between available from, until, and due?
No, can you explain the available?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So available from means this is the earliest date a student could submit the assignment. If it's before the available date, then they don't get to see instructions or anything. They just see that it's locked until a specific time. You can leave it blank, and that means they can submit the assignment as soon as they can get to it. Until is just the inverse of that. It's the last time they can submit an assignment. So after the until date, Canvas locks the assignment and prevents them from submitting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the kind of a nuanced question more than anything. What I do is I have 2 dates on quizzes.
Okay.
Right. So I have a quiz and I give them 3 attempts, right? And the first attempt is due before we start the module. And what I do there is make sure they do the readings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at any rate, and then I have a last chance due date. And I don't think there's any way to do that, to make that occur in this little system, in this little thing you have here. I think the only way I can communicate that is on the calendar.
I'd agree with you, yeah. So if you have multiple due dates for the same assignment, I typically make this due date the first one out of the whole list, and then I'll make subsequent due dates events on a calendar.
Ah, okay. Well, that might be a good way to get around.
That's sort of my flow. So same thing with discussion boards, you know, like if there's an initial post requirement and then by a certain date, you also have to make 2 comments. I'll typically have the initial post be this due date on the discussion board, and then the 2 post requirements, I'll make an event on the calendar and like link it back to the discussion board assignment.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Hey, when you do global date changes, when you go to another mod or another semester, can you do the global date changes on the calendar as well as the assignments themselves?
Well, so they're all tied together. If you do the assignments, it changes the calendar.
What if I only use the calendar?
So with Canvas, since it's all connected, even though you might not focus on the assignments area that much, the assignments area is still existing and still being kept up to date. Changes you make on the calendar get reflected in the assignments and vice versa.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll all change for you. Yeah, so just with this, and another thing with Blackboard is this idea of clearing attempts. So if someone submits an assignment and then they need to resubmit, you might have to go back and have cleared an attempt. And in Canvas, that's not a thing anymore. Students can submit an assignment as many times as they want to. The only way to prevent a student from submitting an assignment is this until field. So if you put that date in, they can't submit after that. Now, in case you're worried about students trying to submit like 100 times and trying to be like, oh, no, I totally submitted everything right the first time, Canvas also does a really good job of communicating how many times a student has submitted and when they submitted each thing. So we're going to see in SpeedGrader, you can actually view each submission attempt, and each submission attempt is timestamped. That way, you have complete control over what you're grading. If you just have a due date, students can submit after that due date. It just gets flagged as late. So that way you know they weren't on time when they turned it in. Another great thing you can do here is you can actually have multiple due dates. So for different people, so not multiple due dates for the same person, but let's say you have presentations happening in class. I could say instead of everyone, I could say everyone else gets May 17th, but William Slavin is going to be presenting on the 22nd instead. And now I can see everyone change to everyone else. And William Slavin has his own due date. And that means on his calendar, he's going to see his own correct due date like he should. That way you don't have to like post a chart or anything. You can just build it directly here. And I can keep clicking the plus button and add as many individual due dates as I want. I can add a due date for a whole section of my class, and I can add it for a whole group too. That way, if it's like group presentations, each group sees the right date when they're supposed to present. I can also X out these extra due dates if it turns out I don't want them. One word of warning with this box. Please do not use this field to do accommodations. So if you ever have to let someone take a quiz, for instance, after everyone else did, or you need to give someone else like an extra 30 minutes, that does not happen in this box. I will show you where it happens. It just doesn't happen here. People have messed themselves up a lot by trying to do that here, and I don't want that to happen to you. But this is where you can really like customize for like group activity stuff. All right, and that's how you make an assignment. Is there any part of this screen that you'd like me to go back to, or any other questions about making an assignment itself I can answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Could you go over again how Canvas coordinates multiple submissions from a single student and what the instructor believes they have to grade?
Sure.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, part of it we haven't just seen yet, so we're going to see it in a moment, but there's this area where you assign the grades to students, and in that area, it typically shows the submission of the student next to where you enter the grade. It's called SpeedGrader. And in SpeedGrader, which we're going to see, there's a little button that pops up that says View Submissions if they have more than one submission. So if they haven't turned it in more than once, there's no View Submission button. You just see the thing they turned in. If there is a View Submission button, then it will actually list every submission along with a timestamp. Canvas will default to showing you the most recent submission, and you can always go back and choose the first submission with the earliest timestamp and use that to inform your decision for grading.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, thanks.
Definitely. Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
Yes. How does the peer review button, how does that show up on my end to see that they've done, does it count the peer reviews that they did or how they completed it?
Yeah, it does. So on your end, you're going to actually see it as part of the, well, here, let me save this because it's right after the screen. I'm just going to save and publish for now. Actually, I'm going to unpublish that. So if I had turned on peer review, well, here, let me just turn on peer review. Duh. Let me just do that. So I'm going to go turn on peer review. I'm going to say 2 people, 2 submissions per student, and I'll just let it be the due date, which is tomorrow, and save that. So now on the right, I have peer reviews from the front page of the assignment. And if I go there, I can then see every student and who they've been assigned to review, basically. And I can always add more people to review, or I can take people away. Since there's not a lot of submissions for this assignment, there's no one showing up yet. But as soon as people start submitting, that would actually come through. In SpeedGrader, then, I could go in and see what those students said about each other instead of just seeing who has been assigned to who. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Sure thing. Any other questions? All right. It's feeling like a no. So
Real quick,
okay.
If you grade an assignment and you do peer review grades, can you do that?
You can. You need to set it up a little creatively, but it can be done. Because as we see here, the peer review is attached to the first assignment. So that makes one column in your gradebook that represents the points for this assignment. You can either put the peer review points onto the same column, or you could make a second assignment and call it peer review for whatever this is, and make that second assignment no submission, just so you have a place to record how many points to get for their peer review.
Got it.
All right, cool. Any other questions? Don't be shy. All right, I'm going to go back to assignments. So here we made an assignment, a very creative name, and we can see that other assignment group that I made while we were going through and talking about assignment groups. I can drag these in any order I want, and that's fine. All I'm doing is clicking these little dots and dragging them around like that. I can do it to my heart's content. Students have their own way of viewing the assignments area, so this isn't going to mess them up necessarily. I can also expand and collapse these assignment groups if I have a lot to work with and I just want to keep it visually manageable. I can also drag assignments between groups if I want to. So just by clicking the same little dots for that row, I can move it back and forth as many times as I want to. So for instance, I can put all these quizzes that I have down in the section called quizzes that I made. Let's see, there's another quiz. I can tell these are all quizzes because they have a rocket ship. For whatever reason, in Canvas, the iconography that they use, rocket ships are quizzes. So I've sort of got two assignment groups set up now. If I ever wanted to make another assignment group, all I need to do is click that plus group button in the upper right next to the plus assignment button. And within these groups, I can do some customizing. So I'm going to go down to quizzes, and I am going to go to the far right to these three dots at the same level as the name of the assignment group. I'm going to click those three dots, and then I'll click edit. From this screen, I can do some things like drop the lowest score, or maybe drop the two lowest scores. You know, maybe they take 6 quizzes and I'm only counting 4 grades. I could also say drop the lowest scores unless one of those scores happens to be one of like this particular final exam, because it's super important. So you can do that for any of these groups here. And again, to do that, all I'm doing is going to the group I want to set up rules for, going to the name of the group, and then clicking the 3 dots on the far right of that name and clicking edit. That's it. If you ever did decide you wanted to use weighted grades, here's how you turn it on. You're going to go to the right of the yellow plus assignment button. If you have high contrast on, it's blue. But you'll go to the right of that button and click the 3 dots. And then click the only option that's there, assignment groups weight. This part's pretty easy. You'll check the only option that's there, weight final grade. And then you're going to see each group of assignments that you've made. And you can tell it what percentage of the final grade those assignments should be. And just make sure that the total does come out to 100 when you're doing it. Earlier, I said that there's a one-to-one relationship between your assignments and your gradebook, and the same is true of these groups as well. So each group that you see on this page also gets a column in your gradebook. If you have groups that came over from Blackboard that you're not intending to use, I really encourage you to delete them. Otherwise, students are going to see like a blog and see that they have 0 in it and go, what's blog and why do I have 0 in it? I don't understand that. So delete any groups that you don't intend to use. To do that, again, I'm just going over, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I give hard copy quizzes.
Mm-hmm.
So can Canvas accommodate that?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yep. What you'll do is earlier we looked at the submission type on paper. You're going to make assignments for those quizzes with the submission type on paper.
Ah, okay.
All right.
Okay, good. Yes, thanks.
All right. So for deleting this group, I'm just going to these 3 dots on the far right, and I'm clicking delete. That's it. Cool. And that's the assignments area. Any questions about the assignments area I can clear up or talk about?
Not that I'm aware of at this point.
Okay. All right. Cool. So let's look at some other ways of making assignments then. Since Canvas is like this dynamic thing and it's always looking for assignments, it doesn't really matter how you make an assignment. It will always show up on the assignments page. And to Canvas, an assignment is anything with a due date and a point value, or due date or point value. It could be worth 0 points. But if it's got one of those qualities, it will be on the assignments page, regardless of how you made it. That's why we see quizzes here, in addition to graded discussion boards, in addition to other types of assignments. So another way to make assignments is to go to modules. If I go to modules, I can add an assignment directly to any of these modules that I want to. All I got to do is click the plus button and choose the type of thing I want to add to that module. And I can either add one of my pre-existing assignments, or I can make a brand new assignment directly from this page. And if I make this assignment, let's see if it shows up. Hey, there's that new assignment we made. I can also go back to the assignments area now, and I'm going to see that new assignment too. There it is right there. And it tells me what module I've stored it in. Canvas is always dynamically searching for if an assignment exists and collecting it. It's not like Blackboard where if you put it in a folder, it's just in that folder and that's the only place it lives. Another way to make assignments is from your calendar. So if I open up my calendar, and it's going to take a moment because I got a lot on my calendar. Maybe I'll open my calendar. Let's find out. I guess while I'm waiting for it to load, has everyone been to workshop 2 where they talked about the calendar?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, awesome, cool. So hey, there it is. So I've got the calendar, and all I'm going to do is click on a day, and I can then make an event or an assignment. So earlier when we were talking about having like an initial post date and then a comment date for that discussion board, I'll probably make an assignment for it. And then for the second post on that discussion board, I'll say, I'll make an event called 2 replies due, and just make the start time for it whenever I want that to be due ultimately. So if it's due at like by the end of Sunday, I'll change the date to Sunday and then have it be right before midnight on that Sunday. And then if we're talking again about discussion boards here, I can click more options. And then I can actually go and find my discussion board that I want them to add more replies to and just link that here. And that way they just can go directly to that discussion board from the event itself.
Can I edit an assignment in assignments?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. All you do is you click on the name of the assignment and then click edit.
Okay.
Cool.
How did you create that link again? Did you click HTML or?
No, it's Canvas makes it a little easier than that. So, and this shows up everywhere that I have this box. So all I'm doing is looking at this area on the right. It's called Content Selector. And all the parts of my course are available here to play with. So I went down to discussions, and it lists all the discussions in this course. And I just clicked the one I wanted to link to.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep, definitely. Any other questions? All right, let me delete that. Let me cancel that. All right, so that's making an assignment. Let's go and make a quiz. So I'm gonna go down to quizzes to do that. It's grayed out for me, but that's okay. Grayed out just means students can't see it, but I can still use it. So I'm gonna click quizzes. And here I've got all the quizzes in my course. You can see everything's got a rocket ship here. So just like with assignments, I'm gonna click the yellow plus quiz button. And I'll give this quiz a name. And some instructions. Whatever instructions you put here will be visible during the quiz itself. So you may want to put some resources you want them to use during the quiz, but I wouldn't link to anything here in this box that you don't want them to see once they start the quiz. Just keep that in mind. Don't like put an answer sheet here like a cheat sheet unless you want them to use it during the quiz itself. Beneath that, we have graded quiz and quiz type. So we've got 4 quiz types to work with. Most of the time, you're going to be doing a graded quiz. And keep in mind that when we're talking about quizzes here, we mean students going onto Canvas, answering questions like multiple choice and true false on the website, and having some of those questions automatically graded by Canvas. We're not talking about paper quizzes or paper tests here.
And when you use quiz, use that kind of generically to include exams and quizzes.
Yeah, because that's how Canvas views it.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Might have already covered that, but.
Nope, yeah, that's okay. So graded quiz, that just means that, kind of like what we were saying, it affects the final score. It has a due date. And questions like multiple choice and true false can be automatically graded by Canvas. The other quiz types are going to differ from graded quiz in some way. So for example, practice quiz doesn't affect the final score. It will still tell them if they got questions right or wrong, but it doesn't hurt their grade at all if they fail it. Graded survey is sort of the flip side. There are no right and wrong answers, and if they finish it, they just get all the points for it. It's like a complete incomplete.
Hey, well, here's a notion. Remember I was talking about first attempt and last attempt? I could have the practice quiz as the first attempt.
Yeah, you could. If you just want to throw it out there.
They're gonna probably naturally do another one after that, but sometimes they max it out though.
Yeah.
If they max it out, I guess I can just manually move it over.
Yeah, you can always unlock it and give them an extra attempt if you need to. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So a graded survey is that complete incomplete. Ungraded survey then means no points, no due dates, no right and wrong, just complete chaos. But they can give you their feedback and their opinions on things. Beneath that, we see assignment groups again, where you can choose which category it's in. For example, you may want to put all of your quizzes in a group. That way a student can see on the assignments, I'm doing like 90%, but on the quizzes, I'm bombing and I have like a 70% each time. What's the disconnect between my quizzes and the rest of the work I'm doing in this course? It can be a communication tool. And then beneath that, you have this whole section of options that you can set up for how the quiz is going to run. For instance, you can shuffle the answers for questions that have more than one answer. So if you want to randomize the order of multiple choice answers for a multiple choice question, this will do that. This will not shift the order of questions. That's a different thing. This is just doing the answers within a question itself. Beneath that, you can set up a time limit. Let's say 60 minutes. And then under that, you can decide how many attempts a student gets. If you just allow multiple attempts, it's an infinite number of attempts. Otherwise, you can constrain it to maybe 3 attempts or 5 attempts, whatever fits in your class. And then you can choose which score is going to be kept out of all their attempts, whether the last one they did, the highest out of them all, or an average of them all. Underneath that, we can decide what students see once they finish the quiz. If you choose let students see their quiz responses, then as soon as they finish the test, they can see the answer that they provided for every question. Some instructors don't like that because if a student gets 100%, they basically have an answer sheet to share. And if that concerns you, uncheck that. Don't let them see it. If you're not worried about that, you can check it off. And then you can also choose when they see the correct answers as opposed to the answers they provided. If you let them see the right answers, typically I'll encourage people to show the right answers on a date after everyone could have taken the test. That way they're not literally be given an answer sheet before other people have finished. All right, let me uncheck those. You can also choose to show one question at a time instead of all the questions at once. And you can prevent backtracking if you don't want them to use later questions to answer earlier questions. And then beneath that, you've got 2 really extreme options. If you really want to be hardcore about your tests, you can set up a password that they need to get from you before they're allowed to take the test. So maybe that could be kind of a cool thing. You give them, multiple ways of preparing, and you let them choose, but they don't get the test until they've demonstrated they're ready for it.
Hey, on the quiz attempts.
Yeah.
Hey, what is your name? Is it Brandon? You said no. What is your name?
It is Nick. I don't know where you got Brandon from.
I got one letter right.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick. On the quiz attempts, can I delete a quiz attempt, or does say for example they get the 3 and I don't want to open them up to a 4th, I can just go in and delete one of the attempts? Am I able to do that?
I don't think so. No. Like, what's the situation where you're thinking of that?
Oh, because I have a quiz pool,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so once they get to over probably about 3, they start getting a lot of repeat questions. In fact, they get all the questions at some point from all the 3 answers, just because out of pure randomness, right?
They've taken the test enough times, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So so instead of giving them, another attempt, which I guess I don't know how you give them. How do you give them another attempt?
So that's back to moderation. Yeah.
That's the part B, I guess.
Yeah.
At any rate, but the part A is, yeah, I would like, I just don't want them to, I'd like to only have them be able to go back and investigate, if you will, 3 attempts, because if they have all 4 and 5 attempts, sometimes you go to 5. I just don't want them to have all the questions.
So, I mean, you can, I guess I'm not understanding the question, because you can choose how many times they can take it. And
Sure.
then if they need to take it another time beyond the number that you put here, you can manually let them have an extra attempt past that. I guess I'm not getting what you mean by like get rid of an earlier attempt, though. That's
Just delete it. It just delete it.
like so it doesn't affect their grade. Is that what you're talking about?
No, some students try to game the system.
Okay.
All right, and here's the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Is I have 40 questions. Let's say I have 30 questions in the pool
Mm-hmm.
of that you can randomly draw from. I choose 10 at a time.
Okay.
Okay, and they know that after about the 3rd or 4th attempt, right, they're going to see all the questions and they can go back and take a look at it. And
Okay.
you see what I'm saying? So they game it. They just they just guess on the first 3, and then they say, or in the first 2 or whatever, and they just guess at it, and then they've got probably over half the questions at that point, and what they got right and what they got wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it sounds like in Blackboard, a student could view their first attempt and review it, and view their second attempt and review it, and view the third attempt. Is that right?
Sure. Well, that's not really I don't know if Blackboard had that capability. I know that when I use at UD, the LMS I use at UD, University of Dayton, is able to do that.
Okay.
But that aside, you see what I'm saying? They try to game the system,
Mm-hmm.
and then they combine their gaming with another student, their buddy, and now they got all the questions.
Yeah, so for me, like from what I understand, and we can actually test it here since we're building a quiz. I'm pretty sure it just lets them review the quiz as they took it. So if they take it again, they don't get to compare the 2 attempts that they took. So they'll see whatever you specify here. So if you don't want them to be able to game the system, you might just leave this unchecked until after everyone has had a chance to take all the tests. Because if this is unchecked, they can't see anything that they've done.
But I do want them to see the one they just finished,
Mm-hmm.
so they know not what they did right or what they did wrong, but just those questions they did wrong, and then they have to go back and I don't give them the correct answer. Then they have to go back and look, kind of investigate and look it up.
Okay. All right. Well, let's finish setting up the quiz and let's see how the review looks, like what it looks like, and see whether it sort of answers that question on its own. Okay.
Fair enough.
All right. Yeah, because I'm still trying to work through that. For now, let me leave that unchecked. Actually, no, let me leave it checked. And let's make sure that's in the future, and we'll leave it like that. I suppose you could let them review only after their last attempt. That might be. We'll check that too. So moving on though, we've got this.
Oh, that might be the way around it. Is just let them view. They only review their last attempt. That way they can't go back, 3 attempts, or they can't compare all 3 attempts with their buddy's 3 attempts. And
that might be it.
That might be the answer.
Okay, cool. Hey, look at that. Stumbling into answers. Yeah.
It popped up right just as we were speaking. How about that?
Yeah.
Socially constructed.
Yeah. All right, so we got another assigned to area with another due date. Again, this is not where you do accommodations like giving an extra 30 minutes or unlocking a test manually, but this is where you do provide a due date. This until date will interrupt the test. So let's say that it's due at, it's due tomorrow, and then they have until tomorrow to take it, or the end of tomorrow to take it, and it's an hour-long test. If I were to start taking this test at 11:30 tomorrow, I would only have 29 minutes to take it as a student. At 11:59, Canvas says, you're done. It's the cutoff, and it will just submit it for the student. So you have a lot of control there. It's very similar to the auto-submit feature that was in Blackboard for quizzes. All right, so we've talked about all the settings for a quiz.
So if they're in the middle of a high-risk exam using lockdown browser with video or something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
And that it's open until, it says it's open until 11, and they start at, let's say, 9:30, and they have a 2-hour limit, that thing's going to cut them off at midnight.
So if it's until 11 and they start at 9:30, they'll only have an hour and a half to take the test.
Okay, so it cuts them off.
Yep. So yeah, if you don't want it to cut them off, I would leave the spot blank.
Yeah, but for online exams, high risk, you want to put a window in there.
So this is where the window is. Because
Where?
at the end of 100, and the time limit, at the end of 180 minutes, it also submits it, whether it's done or not.
Okay.
Yep. Cool. Any other quiz questions?
No, not that I can think of.
All right, cool. So I'm scrolling back up to the top of the quiz, and instead of the details tab that we've been looking at, I'm going to hop over to the questions tab. This is where you actually build what the students do during the test. So this is where you create questions or import questions from a test bank or reuse questions from other tests. So I'm going to make a few questions just to see what that process looks like. And if there are any specific question types you want to see, I'll be happy to make those too. The default one that most people use is multiple choice, so Canvas will start with that as well. So you've got a title for the question that you can use. If you don't title it, then Canvas will just default to the word question, and that's it, and it will number it. But you could say like chapter 1, because some people like to sort of reference where the question's coming from. Entirely your choice. On the right, you've got the point value for the question. So you can say whether it's a 10-point question, a 5-point question, 2.5 points per question, whatever this question's worth, enter that in this box here. And then in the middle, you can choose what kind of question you're creating. So you got multiple choice, true, false, lots of different question types here.
Do you have hotspot? Do you have hotspot?
Not yet. It is coming though.
And how many decimal places can you go to on the points?
I am not sure because I've never been asked that before.
Sometimes if you take 20 questions, if you have 11 questions and you divide by 20, it might go to another decimal place or something.
I'm just going to do 3 decimal places and see if it's still up there. It looks like it defaults to 2.
Okay, two should be plenty.
I wonder if I do 5-9, if it's going to truncate. No, it rounds. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Because if it doesn't add up to exactly 20, the students go, "Oh my gosh, I'm missing a thousandth of a point." I'm like, okay.
The most critical thousandth of a point. Come on,
Yeah.
Kevin.
yes, exactly. I mean, well, there's some OCD guys out there, and
I do not doubt
I am one, so yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just write a question.
Nothing against us fellow OCDers. I nothing, just to make sure everybody thinks I'm not being impolitically correct. Right?
Okay. All right, duly noted. The record shows that. Thank you. All right, so I've got the body of my question here. Please do not put the answers to your question here. Just the question itself goes here. It's also called the stem of the question. You'll see that language sometimes. But yeah, just the question here. And you can put videos. Again, you can put documents. You can put recordings, whatever you want. Then beneath that, you've got all the possible answers for this multiple choice question. Now, although the first answer is marked correct by default, it does not have to be the right answer. So just put the answers in whatever order you want. So what is today? I'm going to make my first answer tomorrow. And my next answer, I'm going to make yesterday. And then not today. And then today. And if the right answer should be today, because the question is what is today, I can change that really easily. You can see how I hover over these other answers and that green arrow follows me. All I need to do is click the green arrow for what the right answer should be, and you can see it becomes the correct answer for that question. I can also have more than 4 answers. I can add another one. And I can have fewer than 4 too, just by trashing any answers that I don't want. So let's say not today is not my fancy. I can trash that. And now there's only 3 possibilities for this question. And if you really want to feel fancy, you don't have to use words for your possible answers. If I click this pencil over here, I get another editing window. Perhaps the question is, which of these art pieces best represents minimalism, and then each possible answer is a different painting or different sculpture, like a picture of that they choose from. Perhaps it's like a speech class where I have different audio clips of people speaking and I ask them to identify certain techniques. It doesn't have to be just words as the answers they're choosing from, because I still have a YouTube option. I have all those recording options here. And I have another accessibility dude just to make sure my answers are accessible as well. Whatever I put in here though, I can click done, and that is locked in now. To save the question, I then click update question, and it's locked in. And my test is now worth 1.2 points, which is a little weird, a little easy, but that's where we're at. Are there any specific types of questions that you'd want me to demo or show you how to make?
No, but if this, if there's a URL, does it just, is it just for them to click to go to that web page, or does it integrate within the question itself?
Yeah, so if you have like a URL to produce OWL, for instance, it would take them out of Canvas to that website. It wouldn't load it within the question.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Do you have the ability to, can you load a diagram, for example, without the hotspot? You got to do something, right?
Mm.
So let's say you load a diagram of the distribution curve. I don't know, again, I'm probably causing nightmares here, but you draw the, a distribution curve and say, okay, you've got area between areas 1 and 2, areas 2 and 3, and 3 and 4, and none of the above. Can you upload a diagram and have them look at a diagram?
Yeah, let me edit this question. I'm going to click this pencil over here. In the body of this question, I would put that diagram, right? Because I can click this embed image and see all the images in my course and, add something right away. You'd want to make sure you do the alt text for it, just like with any other image. Diagram with labeled sections or something like that.
Yes, yes.
And then I could add that.
Okay, so all I have to do is I just have to have that diagram loaded somewhere.
Yep. Cool.
Do I have to load it in files in order to import it into or in order to embed?
No, because you could come over to images and do it here. Upload a new image.
Gotcha.
All right.
Oh, by the way, once you do that, once you upload a new image, does that go to your file now?
It does go to your files area, yeah. And I think it creates a folder called course images, basically.
Got it.
Yep. Any other questions or any other types of questions that you want to see created? Here, I'll pull up the list if you want to look at the list of possible ones too.
On the essay, do you have short essay, long essay, or is it just essay?
Essay is essay. If they're typing a lot, it's essay.
So there's not a short answer?
Nope. Because they're both just, here's a box, here's a prompt, and here's a box to type something. Please type something.
Well, that makes sense.
On the true false, can you put indeterminate?
Well, at that point, you really just have a multiple choice question, right? With 3 options.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yep. Any others? All right, it sounded like a no. Just one other thing to point out while we're on this multiple choice question. You'll notice there's no A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3 here. Canvas does not letter or number the possible answers for your questions. And Blackboard did do that. And honestly, I like the fact that Canvas doesn't do it, just because it helps out with some of the analytics that we're going to look at later. But if you have answers like A, B, C, and then I'll just add A and B, or B and C, you'll actually want to type these letters in order for these to make sense, because Canvas isn't going to call these A, B, and C. You'll actually need to go in and add A, B, and C. Another way to handle this type of question is, instead of multiple choice, just build it as multiple answer. Because if you do multiple answer, they can just check off both A and B, or the first and third option, and instead of trying to pick a separate one altogether. Here, let me clear those out. Let me clear that out.
Is there, how many multiple responses can they give? 3?
No,
Two? More than one?
as many as you have, as many as you choose.
Okay, so you define that, okay.
Yep. So just like how I marked today correct, I could have marked today and yesterday correct on a multiple answer question. All right, so I'm going to click update question and lock this in. And I am going to go ahead and pull from a question bank now. So you have access to all of your question banks across all of your courses, and you have a couple ways to work with it. One way is to just click Find Questions. If I click Find Questions, on my left, I have every bank from every course that I'm attached to, and I can see how many questions are in each bank. So I'm just going to pick that bank, and then once I'm seeing the bank here, I can select all the questions. I can uncheck some. I can only pick a few questions, but however many questions I want, I can then scroll down and just add them to my test. So now I've got 4 questions. I can drag these questions around to change the order, and that way I have complete control over how a student progresses through the test itself. If I want to randomize the order of my questions, I'm going to make a new question group. This is the 3rd time that I say group today. So question groups are how you randomize the order of questions. So let me make one. The name does not matter because students won't see it. And for this group, I need to tell Canvas, show a student this many questions, let's say this many questions, and for each question a student sees, make it worth that many points. So out of all the questions I'm going to put in this group, a student will only see 3 of them, and each one the student sees is going to be worth 2.5 points. And so I'm going to make that group. And from here, I can just drag questions into the group. Let's see, since I said 3, let me do that. All right, so now I've got 3 questions in my group. That means when students take the test, they're going to all see this first question. For any assignment, I can message it once all the students. And then they're going to see these 3 questions in a randomized order that'll vary from student to student. If I were to put more than 3 questions in here, now all the students are going to see 3 random questions from this pool, and they won't see the same questions necessarily. And each time they take the test, they're going to see a different random selection of questions from this pool. So it's randomizing which questions are actually given out to students now, because I have more in here than I'm telling it to pick. I can also create new questions directly in this group just by clicking this plus button. And you know, it's a multiple answer, so I'll just say multiple answer. And then I can come down here and provide some options. And we'll say 2 and 4 are both correct, because I think that's what even means. And so now I've got 5 questions in this group. The other way to work with your banks of questions that you have are to connect a group directly to that bank. So I'm going to make a second group now. I'm going to call it connected to a bank. And I'm going to tell it to pick 2 questions out of the possible and make each question they see worth 10 points. And instead of clicking create group, I'm going to click link to a question bank. So once I do that, I can see all of my question banks again. And I just want to pick which bank this group is tied to. Let's say, let's pick one that has a lot. Hey, 18, that's pretty good. We'll pick 18. So I selected that, and now I'm going to click create group. So that means that whatever questions I have in this bank called Quiz 5 Bank, this test will pick 2 of them at random and show them to a student. And if I go and edit this bank, this test will update as well. And this is a nice way to sort of keep your questions organized and find an easy way to refresh your test with new questions. There is sort of a trade-off here. With this second option that we just did with connecting to a bank, I think your tests are easier to build. With this first option of finding questions and adding them to the test so I can read them right here, I think that it's easier to regrade the test. If you ever have a question where you need to go back and give points because the answer was ambiguous, then you'll want to have it set up this way so that you can go and edit the question, because editing the question is the only way to regrade a question. And that's a key point. You have to come here and edit the question if you want to regrade it. All right. that's basically how you build a quiz. Is there any part I can go back over or show you again?
Yeah, that last part there, one more time. So if if they get a 0 on a question, and I want to go back and kind of give them a point for the question, I have to go back and edit the question in order to give them the point.
It's if you want to regrade it for the entire class at once. Like let's say for this which numbers are even question, let's say I had marked 3 as being the right answer, and I was like, oops, I goofed that. To actually regrade it to give them all back the points, I need to go back and edit and unmark 3 as the right answer. And then Canvas would say, okay, well, since you're changing it, how should we grade this question instead? And at that point, the points would go out.
Oh, I see. You don't have to change the question. You just have to change the answer to the question.
Exactly. Yep.
You change it to, can you change, once you kind of locked into one answer, can you now say, okay, well, you know what? Actually, I would have accepted 2 answers to that question.
Yeah. You'll need to make sure you use multiple answer if you're willing to accept more than one answer. If it's multiple choice, you can only have one answer, right? But you can totally do that.
But what if I start out with a multiple choice, one answer, and now I go back and say, you know what? I'll take the first one and the third one. Are you able to dynamically change that as you're grading, or do you have to like do it all manually?
I think in some situations that would not work. Like you couldn't go from multiple answer to essay, for instance. But I bet that if I have this here with multiple options, and I come up here to where it says multiple answers and switch it to multiple choice, it does that. And I bet I can go back and change it there too. Yeah. So
what are you betting? A cup of coffee?
What?
Are you betting a cup of coffee?
Am I betting a cup of coffee? Sure. Yeah, I'll bet a nice latte from Starbucks. How about that? Yeah.
I don't go to Starbucks anymore. They're mean.
Oh, they're mean? Okay, let's not do
Yeah,
Starbucks.
I go to Panera, man. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do Panera then. That's fine. Yeah, but I would just come up here and change this type right here.
Thank you.
Yep, let me update that. Cool. Any other questions about quizzes and quiz questions? Other things that start with Q?
Nope, thank you.
All right. So I'm going to save that. And I have my quiz here. And this is what students will see as well. So they'll see the point value, they'll see the time limit, they'll see the answers are shuffled, they'll see how many attempts they have, they'll see when they can see the right answers, they'll see the due date. Canvas does a really good job of communicating this information. And I say all that just because I don't know that you need to have to spell it out here anymore. You're sort of freed up to do what you want with this box because it's all going to be right here listed out really clearly too. If you want to get a glimpse of what it looks like for a student, you can click the preview button. This is probably the one difference between students and instructors on this page. Where you have preview, they have a button that says start quiz. That's it. But if you click preview, then this is what the quiz looks like to students. Since I have a timer where they have 180 minutes, you can see it counting down right over here. You can see these questions that they have. I'm just going to answer some of them. You probably get them wrong. And I'm just going to submit the quiz. Oh yeah, here's a fill in the blank. All right. And then I can see, since I let them see what they did immediately, I can see how I answered and whether I got the question right or wrong. And this is all just in the preview. And I can also see how much time I spent and all that. As an instructor, you can actually see how far they got in the test and which questions they were on and which questions they attempted to answer and how much time they spent, even if they haven't submitted it yet. So that's an option you have if someone's like, oh, it wouldn't let me in. You can go and see whether or not they were actually on this page in the first place.
So is there an ability to clear the attempt like in Blackboard then?
So yeah, clearing attempts aren't really a thing. You can, if you've limited the number of attempts, you can always unlock it for additional attempts. And that's sort of how Canvas thinks about it. All right.
Is there a preview for assignments too?
For assignments, no, just because there really isn't much to preview. If you click, it's like this assignment that I made, it's a Hard Knock Life. This is what it looks like to a student. It's got the instructions and the submission options. Since I built a rubric or rubrics there, the only difference for you is where you have publish, they have a button that says submit. That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
On the on the timer, when you are grading, do you see how long they spent on a quiz?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah, and kind of going back to the gaming, what they do is they go in and they spend 5 minutes on the first attempt and 3 minutes on the second one, 30 seconds on the next one, you know. And then or on the first attempt they say, "Oh, I did my first attempt. I spent 30 seconds on it." It's like, well, wait a minute. No.
Yeah, so you can see that. You can definitely see that.
Okay, and you get that in the when you go into grading, or when you go in, where do you see that?
You should be able to see that in grading. Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Now to the question of what was it? Oh, it just left me. It was about. All right, it was about unlocking and like clearing attempts. I'm going to go to a finished quiz that does have attempts on it already, just to talk about that. So someone, if we could all mute our mics, that'd be awesome. Thank you. So here I've got a quiz that a lot of people have taken. Here's all the instructions I gave, and here's all the information here. And then on the right, I have moderate this quiz. So if I click moderate this quiz, I can see all of the people that are students in my class who can take this quiz. And if I don't want to scroll through the whole list, I can just type someone's name, like Rhonda. And it just filters down to her. For any of these people, I can go back and let me just get everyone back. I can see how much time they've spent on it, how many attempts they've taken, and what score they've gotten. And if I want to go and click this pencil icon, I can then do things like manually unlock a quiz for the next time. So this is Canvas's version of clearing attempts. It's really just letting them take it again. If I had set a time limit, I would be able to give additional time on top of that time limit here. So let's say that the time limit is 180 minutes, but Bradley gets an extra 30 minutes. I would come to this screen and I would enter 30 minutes for that time limit. And again, I'm just going to the far right and clicking the pencil icon and coming to this screen here. I think if I click this, yeah, so this show student quiz results is just another way of seeing how students are doing. So I can like click Bradley's name, for instance, and if he were in progress, I could see how much progress he's made before he actually submitted it. And all I'm doing is I'm going to the front page of the quiz. I'm going up next to the edit button and clicking those 3 dots and clicking show student quiz results. All right, let's go ahead and talk about grading stuff. So if you want to grade stuff, you go to grades. The name does what you think. The grades looks a lot like the grade center in Blackboard. You've got a row for each student. You've got a column for each assignment here. And you'll notice that your course navigation collapses. That way you have more space to view the gradebook. If you want to get that course navigation back, just go up to the upper left and click this hamburger button, which is the 3 lines. Kind of looks like a sandwich, you know, 2 pieces of bread, something in the middle. And you can get that course navigation back. That way you can leave the gradebook if you want to. Just click the hamburger button to hide it or show it. For each of these students, I have, you know, a cell for each grade they could receive. And there's lots of information that can show up in the gradebook, but I think there's like a couple simple rules that make it kind of manageable. So rule number 1 that I tell myself is if I see a number anywhere, well, that's the score they got. They have been graded, they got a number, they're good. If I see a dash in any cell, that means they haven't turned in anything yet. So they haven't done the assignment for me to do any grading. And if I see any other symbol, like this little rocket ship or the speech bubble, that means that they did something and I should go grade it. It's going to vary depending on what they did, but there is a submission for me to grade there. See if I can find some other symbols.
What happens if you have a quiz that has both essay and multiple choice? What will happen? I mean, the multiple choice will get graded instantly. Mm-hmm. And can you, and I'm assuming that's going to show up on the grade book, but then they go, oh, wait a minute, I think I flunked it because the essay is not in there yet.
So Canvas is really clear. It'll say, your quiz has questions that haven't been graded yet, and you currently have this many points. So it tells them that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah, they'd be like, why do I have an F right now? And that'd be upsetting. Yeah. For you as an instructor, though, it would look exactly like this. So these are quizzes where there's something I need to manually grade. And so I could start and grade those. If you want to excuse a student for an assignment, just click on any cell, type EX, and that student is now excused for this particular assignment that you've got. And you can, go in here, you can enter numbers, you can mouse around or arrow around using the arrow keys on your keyboard and just work your way down a list if you want to.
What if you want to add points to a, you just want to say, okay, well, there was raining outside that day, so I want to give you 2 more points. How do you do that?
And you want to give everyone 2 more points?
Or just one person?
Oh yeah, I just click in the cell. Let's say Sandra should have 19. I give her 19.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that.
Does it flag that you're overriding the quiz grade?
So by default, they'll be notified that their grade changed. Yeah.
But I don't see it.
Yeah, so it's not going to tell you, hey, you've made changes to this grade. If you do ever want to review all the changes you've made in the gradebook, though, you can go to this gear icon in the upper right corner and click View Gradebook History. And this is a complete audit trail of every single change that anyone makes to the gradebook here, with timestamps and before and after.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, if anyone's working with an AP instructor or AP academic coach, and they are, I don't think you have a reason to be paranoid, but you just want to be sure that things are getting graded well, you can always come here and see who is doing what grades and what they're doing with those grades and how quickly they're doing those grades. For instance, I graded a lot of things at 4:30 unreasonably fast. So you can see all that in the gradebook history. And I'm just going to click grades to get out of the gradebook history. Let's just stay with this menu for a bit. A couple other options that you have up here. You can hide student names. If you need to show your gradebook and respect FERPA, hiding student names is an easy way to do that. I can always show those student names again at any point in time. I can also organize all the columns in my gradebook. So I could arrange them by when these assignments are due. I can also arrange them by the point value of the assignment or by assignment groups. So let's say you have an assignment group for all your quizzes. Clicking this Arrange by Assignment Groups would put all your quizzes together right next to each other. You can also treat ungraded as 0. What treat ungraded as 0 does is it will show for you a score that represents if that person had a 0 in every other assignment that doesn't already have a grade, this is what their score would look like. So it's an easy way just to see if there's any assignments that you haven't actually graded yet, because this will just blanket them and pretend that there's 0s. And then you can always uncheck that too. So I can check it. I can uncheck it. That way it stops treating the ungraded as 0 if I want. All right, show concluded and show inactive. That's not really going to matter unless you have a student who gets dropped maybe for financial reasons, or they have something come up where it's not sure whether they can continue the class. This will let you see their work that they did and see their grades. That way if they come back, you don't have to scramble to find all their work. And then finally, you have a notes column. So if you ever do need to take notes on your students that you don't want people to see, the notes column is just a private area that you can write in that is only visible to you. So you might write, accommodations that you need to give students. You might write pronouns that they prefer. You might write the major that they're working on, or what they chose as their project topic for the term. Just anything that's going to be helpful to you, put in this column. And you can always hide the column again too, if you need to. All right. Any questions about this menu here?
So the students, of course, won't see the notes.
No, they won't. Don't worry. You can say they smell funny and they're mean to me. They will never know.
Also, is there a way for me to grade without them seeing the points?
Yeah, there is. Great question. That's a good segue. It's called muting and unmuting an assignment. So you see this bell right here? That means that this assignment is muted. That means whatever I do to these grades, students won't know until I unmute the assignment. To mute it, I'm going to this menu, and it's not going to do anything. So I'm going to refresh the page, and I'm going to try that again. So I'm going to click that menu, and I'm going to, in this case, unmute the assignment. I could also go and mute this assignment. When I click mute, it just gives me these it just tells me what it's going to do. It suppresses any notifications like this. Any other questions I can talk about with this menu or grades or anything else like that?
Is there an auto feed to the registrar?
Could you say that again?
Is there an auto feed to the registrar?
Oh yeah, like the copy grades to my NKU?
Yeah.
Yeah, so to do that, I'm gonna go back to my course navigation. I'm gonna go to settings. And what I wanna make sure to do is in settings, I'm gonna come to navigation because we've created a tool that will do this. So I'm in settings, I'm in navigation, and I'm going down and looking for, oh, this one might not have it because it's not a real class. Yeah, this is a fake class. So what you'll look for is a thing called Canvas SAP. It should be down towards the bottom, Canvas SAP. And if you enable that, it will then show up over here in your course navigation, and that will let you copy your grades to my NKU for midterms and the final.
Is there a column that shows their grade to date?
Yes. So let me come back here, and I'm going to collapse this. So on the far right, by default, you have a column for each assignment group you've made and the total grade.
Okay.
If you want, you can move the total grade to the front. That way it's next to their name.
How did you do that?
I am just clicking this little menu right here.
Huh? Oh, okay.
All right. Yep.
Do you have a listing of all the graded categories, or not graded categories, all the graded items that you can look at and then resort on, kind of reconfigure them a little bit?
Could you elaborate just a bit, Kevin?
Yeah. You start like you could just, I don't know, move it left, move it right instead of move it to the front. Just kind of move it anywhere you want. It's
oh, okay, yeah. So a lot of columns you can do that with. For instance, I can just take knowledge check communications and just
that's my question.
These gray columns you can't do that with.
The what?
So these gray columns you can't.
The gray columns. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So for instance, those assignment groups, if I can get over there, those are always going to be over there, hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions?
Oh, is there a handy dandy list that shows, from the grade book, all the assignments and how many points it adds up to?
To me that sounds like, I think like that's this list right here, right? This is all the assignments. And then there's the total column. I have it set to use a letter grade, so it's not showing the total points possible here. But I could have it set instead of a letter grade, showing the total points. Go ahead.
And the issue is when you come to the end of the semester and you're like, okay, I've got 1,000 points and I've got 100. How many more points do I have left to allocate? And you want to see, okay, here's where I'm standing right now as far as points against the syllabus.
Okay. I guess I would come here and I would look at the total column. Yeah, my total column looks a little different because I've played with settings and workshops, but it should show you the total points possible for students when you're actually on the screen.
I used to use a test student to help me figure out how many points were in total.
Oh, yeah.
Is that possible here?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So what I could do is go back to my course navigation, go back to home. And on the right side of every course is the student view button. And now I'm seeing my course exactly as a student would see it. So if I go to grades, then I kind of have that list that you're talking about, Kevin. I've got each assignment, what it's out of, and totals broken down.
Yep. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Cool. So I guess while we're in student view, one thing to call out is that if you want to leave student view, you come down to this giant purple bar at the bottom and you click leave. So just so you don't miss that. All right, what other questions can I answer?
I don't know if we're getting there yet, but are you going to cover how to create or how to link a quiz to Lockdown Browser?
We can. Yeah, certainly. Definitely. Cool. All right, so let me just continue with the gradebook for now. If you actually want to view what the student did and you want to use that to inform your decisions, you want to use this thing we've said called Speed Grader. And there are many, many ways to get to Speed Grader. For now, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the column for the assignment I want to view. I'm going to go to that little black circle with the white triangle, and I'm going to choose Speed Grader from the list. So this is Speed Grader. This is where if the student did submit, which Larry is a bad person and did not submit, but if he had, I would be able to view it here and then give him a grade based off of his submission. I'm going to start with these buttons here in the upper left corner. Let me zoom in a bit. So these buttons are going to help you manage the Speed Grader. This first button, this little white book with a check mark, is how you leave the Speed Grader when you're done. So when you don't want anything else and you're ready to go back to do other stuff, this is how you get out. Do not use the back arrow, because that will technically take you back to when you were adding a grade, and it can cause all sorts of problems. Use the Gradebook button. Next to this is a bell where we can mute the assignment or unmute it again. So this is just another place to do that. Next to that bell is a keyboard, which if you are a fan of keyboard shortcuts, clicking that, you can zoom out a little bit, will give you the keyboard shortcuts that you can use in Speed Grader. So I've learned, just because I've seen the screen enough, that J will take me to the next student. Next to that is a help menu. So if you ever get stuck, then you can go ahead and reach out to, you can reach out to our IT help desk. You can search the Canvas website. You can submit feature ideas. Those are all available from that question mark. There we go. And then finally, I have this gear icon. When I click this gear icon, it's going to let me sort all of the submissions that are in Speed Grader. By default, it's done alphabetically, but I can also sort all the submissions by when they submitted or by whether or not it still needs grading. So here I'll do date of submission and save that. All right, and so over here on the right then, I can go left to right to individual students based off that sorting that I just did. Or I can click this little yellow triangle and I can see all of my students at once. So you can see that the people who didn't submit are now down at the bottom here, and all the people that did submit are towards the top. So grayed out means that student hasn't submitted anything yet, and a green check mark means they've submitted and you've graded. If they've got a yellow dot next to their name, that means that they've submitted and you should probably grade it now. So let's view William's stuff. So I just had people upload a random file just for demonstration purposes. If they upload something like a Word doc or a PDF, you can view it and annotate it just like you did in Crocodoc in Blackboard. You can grab a highlighter and highlight text and leave a note explaining why you highlighted it. You could maybe be consistent and say that all of your green highlights are going to be grammar issues and all of your orange highlights are going to be like questions about citing sources. And you can be systematic like that. If you just want to draw and circle, you could grab the paintbrush and you can just become the Picasso you were born to be. You can highlight and draw whatever you want and then add notes for that too. This could be good for like graphs, or if they submit like a digital piece of artwork, for instance, or if you just want to circle like a heading that isn't good, you can do that. On the right then is where we view like the points that we're going to give and how we're going to grade it. So I'm going to go right to these three dots right here in the middle, and I'm going to click those just to give myself a little more space because I want to focus on this area. Right where my mouse is right now, that is where the other submissions would show up if there was more than one submission. It would literally say view submissions right there. He doesn't have any other submissions, so I don't have the button, but that is exactly where it would show up if there were some to view. Beneath that, I can see the rubric that I've created. If I click view that rubric, I can see how I used it to grade, and I can quickly go through and give them a grade, and you can see that Canvas does the math automatically for me. For each row, I can click this little speech bubble and explain why I gave them the item that I did for that particular row. If I'm using the rubric, I need to make sure I click save on that rubric. So I don't want to scroll down and click submit. I want to click save on this rubric, and that will actually preserve the score for me. And then beneath this, I've got all the comments that I can make. So I can add comments here about how he did, and he can also comment back to me. So we can actually have a conversation here. You can see a couple people have written here. So this is kind of nice. Instead of having a student ask you, why did I get a C on this, and then not tell you who they are or what class they're in or what assignment they're talking about, now it's all directly on the assignment right beneath their name. So it's just a much clearer communication. With these comments, you can also go in and add extra stuff if you want. You can use this paperclip and upload a file. You could add a recording. If you're doing an online class, this is great because you can click that. You can use a camera. It might get messed up because I'm already using my camera. Let's see what's going to happen. I was thinking about it. It's probably not going to work because I'm already recording. But if I were not recording this already, I could use this to actually record, verbal or audio, verbal and visual feedback. If you've pre-recorded feedback, I suppose you could upload that too. That's up to you. And finally, we've got this little microphone button right here, or speaker button right here. This shows up only if you're using Chrome. If you're using another browser, you won't have this button. And again, we're going to see if this works since we're recording right now. But if I click that little speaker dude, and then I click record, in theory, and I allow it to access my microphone, it should pick up everything that I'm saying and allow me to dictate text. And I can even dictate punctuation, exclamation point. So I can do all that. I can click stop, and it will just add it directly and type it out for me. So I don't have to type anymore if that's something that I don't like doing or I struggle with. All right, that's basically SpeedGrader. Is there anything with SpeedGrader I can go back over, look at again, talk about more?
If the student replies to a comment that I put in, how do I get notified that they put a comment on that assignment?
You should get an email saying that there's been a comment added.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, I kind of missed how you were able to then edit the essay. Does that just happen automatically that you're able to edit the essay as soon as you call it up?
Yeah, so if it's something that can be viewed like this, I immediately get these drawing tools so I can start marking it up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Nope. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my gradebook. And now I want to show you the fastest way to get to the SpeedGrader. In my humble opinion, the fastest way to do this is from your dashboard.
Hey, actually, I did have a question. I was trying to unmute it real quick.
Oh, no. Okay.
I couldn't get to the button fast enough. Does this work on PDF as well as Word document, the SpeedGrader?
Yes, PDF, Word document, PowerPoint.
What about Excel?
I think Excel too, yeah. No, I've definitely Excel, yep.
What about SPSS?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You can still use SpeedGrader to give points. You just won't be able to view the thing. That's it. All right, so I'm at my dashboard. And again, the fastest way that I think to get to SpeedGrader is this to-do list over here. On the right, you've got a list of every single assignment that a student has submitted to from all of your classes. And if I click one of these, it's going to take me directly into the SpeedGrader for that assignment, for that submission, and I can just start grading right away. If this to-do list is empty, then you're done. You're free. You've graded it all. Congratulations. But this is probably the fastest way to go about it. Since these are real assignments, except for the best assignment ever, I don't know that I want to click them, so I can respect FERPA. But this takes us back to the SpeedGrader, and it's magical and wonderful. Also, for your students, they have their own to-do list of all the things that are due across all of their classes. So if they can at least sign in the Canvas period, they really don't have a reason to not know that something is due. They just have to look over here. And I'm sure that will never be a problem in the future. All right, so I'm going to go back to the gradebook. There are just a few other options I want to call out before we wrap up our gradebook section. If I go back to this menu where we access the SpeedGrader, you have a couple other sort of quality of life functions that are going to save you some time. One is message students who. If you need to, you can click message students who, and it will find every person that hasn't submitted yet, and you can send them a personalized message about why they haven't submitted and they should think about their life choices. This is blind carbon copy, so they don't see who else is being sent the message. It just looks like to them that you're sending it directly to them. You know, whatever you need to put there. You can also do it for reasons that aren't necessarily bad, like maybe you just want to let them know why you haven't graded yet. Like, I haven't graded yet because, you know, this came up with this particular assignment. Or maybe you want to be nice. They scored more than, you know, 19 out of 20. I don't want to say, hey, great job. Coming back to this menu, I can also set a default grade. So setting a default grade is nice because what it will do is it will look at every single cell that doesn't have a symbol or a number. Sorry, every cell that doesn't have a number, and it's going to put whatever number I say here. So if you, for instance, reach a point where you're not accepting any more submissions and everyone gets a 0, you can put a 0 here, and then everyone that doesn't have a grade will get a 0 now. So I can do that. You can see 3 student scores were updated, and Larry has a 0 now. Keep in mind that if it is a submission that hasn't been graded yet, it will still give them the default grade because you haven't given them a grade already. But that's just an easy way, especially when midterms come around and you just need to like get everyone up to date so that they all have, you know, a grade reflecting. Set default grade is an easy way to do that. We've also found that it's a good way to hand out extra credit points or like fudging points. Like, let's say you just want to give everyone 3 points on a quiz. You could make like an assignment called points for this quiz and set the default grade to 3. That way everyone just gets 3 points immediately.
What if I want to go slightly over the amount of points that are allocated for the assignment?
Oh yeah, you can. I could set the default grade on this assignment to 100 if I wanted to. That's fine.
Right. Let's say I wanted to add 100. No, I mean just back on a regular assignment, like I don't know, just participation points. And I said, okay, you get 5 if you just show up and don't do anything stupid, and you get 6. So 5 is like, you know, kind of the max, but you can get 6 if you come in and ask a good question and things like that.
Yeah, so the points possible is 5. So where it says out of 20, it'd say out of 5, like right here. And if I wanted to, I could set the default grade to 6, which means everyone effectively gets 1 extra credit point.
Okay.
All right. One other thing in here that I don't know that you want to do, I just want to call it out to explain it, is curve grades. I called it out because curve grades mean something very specific in Canvas. When a lot of people talk about curving, they really mean fudging. I want to sort of slide everyone's points up a little bit because I'm a nice person. In Canvas, curve grades literally means I want to take all of the submissions and I want to force them along a bell curve distribution, a normal distribution. So if you click curve grades, you'll tell Canvas what the average grade should be, and then it's going to break that down and make some people fail and some people excel, and a lot of people will get whatever average you specified. So just be aware that that's what it does. It's not like sliding things up. All right, and that's pretty much everything with the gradebook. All right, the last few things we got are looking at rubrics and then some places where you can get analytics about your course so you can give better feedback. So for rubrics, I'm going to go to outcomes. Outcomes is where all of your rubrics live. If you want to see them, they're right here. So I click outcomes and I click manage rubrics. And could we all just make sure our microphones are muted for the moment? Cool, thank you. All right, so here I've got all the rubrics that I can see, and I can make edits to those rubrics if I want to. Just click Edit Rubric, and I can start making changes here. If I want to make a brand new rubric, I can also click this plus add rubric that's on the far right. So again, I went to Outcomes, Manage Rubrics, I have my list, and I'm just clicking plus add rubric on the right. I can give it whatever name I want. And then I need to decide what each criterion is going to be. So maybe my first one is concept. And maybe my second one is execution. Well, let's say technique. And I'm going to hit random keys on my keyboard just to keep things exciting. Technique. And I can keep doing that for however many rows I needed. I can also go in and I could add as many increments or ratings as I want to. So it defaults to 5 and 0. I could totally have a 3.1 that I can call whatever I want, and I can provide a description. And I could have different amounts of ratings for each criterion. So concept has 3, technique only has 2, and that's totally fine. I can also change what each one is worth if I want. I can manually edit them, or you see I have 530. If I go over to the far right, I could change the total to 10, for instance, and that 5.3 turns into 10.6. It'll keep all the ratings proportionate to each other. And then if I need to, I can go back and fine-tune these two. That's totally fine. For now, I'm just going to create that rubric. Okay, so I made it, but I'm not actually using it yet. So to use it, I'm going to go back and click on Assignments. So to use it, I need to pick an assignment or quiz or discussion to put it on. I'm going to pick It's a Hard Knock Life. And down here, you can see I already have one rubric attached. I'm going to trash it just by clicking this little trash can icon. This doesn't delete it from my course. It just deletes it from this assignment. And instead, I'm going to click plus rubric. Now, I want to point out, I could have just built my rubric here as well, and it would still show up under Outcomes and Manage Rubrics. But this is just another way of doing it. Now, sometimes if you don't like ratings here, and you just want to use the rubric to organize your feedback, you can also check off, I'll write free-form comments. And then you'll notice the ratings go away. And I just have my criterion, the points I want to assign, and then my comments about those points. And I find this is really good for like project-based work, where you really just want to talk about like craft, execution, concept, and you don't really want to be pigeonholed into specific like rating categories to work with. To actually go find the rubric that I just built, I'm going to click Find Rubric on the right. Much like with my question banks, I can see all of my rubrics from all of my courses, so it's really easy to reuse a rubric more than once. I'm probably going to have a hard time finding the one I just made just because I got a lot. So I'm going to find, let's click this one. And yeah, let's pick this rubric. Sure, it's the same rubric. And I can just click Use this rubric, and then it's there. Now, this is probably one of my few beefs that I have with Canvas. It looks like I am done here, and it looks like everything's good to go, and it is not. Canvas is lying to me right now, and it makes me unhappy. Because although it's showing up here, if I were to go to SpeedGrader and try to grade with this and click in those green boxes like we saw earlier, it would let me do that, but it wouldn't actually produce a score that affects their final grade. If I want to have a score that affects their final grade, I need to come to this rubric, I need to click this pencil, and I need to make sure Use this rubric for assignment grading is checked off. If it's not checked off, it will look like you're actually grading and you are not. And I had someone grade like 60 students worth of work before realizing that no grades are showing up, and it was a bad time. So check Use this rubric for assignment grading and click Update Rubric. In this case, because let's see, the assignment's total points are 20 and I have 45 points possible for the rubric. So I need to decide whether I want to have my assignment match my rubric or be different. I want to change it so that they match. And then I'll click Update Rubric, and now they're both worth 45 points. Any questions about rubrics, about checking, use this as a rubric for assignment grading, anything like that?
Do all assignments have to have a rubric?
Great question. No, they do not. They absolutely do not.
Okay.
And don't worry, Canvas isn't going to make you, well, you got to use rubrics. Any other questions?
Did you click the plus button to get that third column?
Oh, so let me edit down here.
Whenever you made that third column when you were creating the rubric.
Yeah, so I clicked plus criterion, and then I made new one.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I should point out that if I wanted to, like if I really liked the way that grammar was set up, I could duplicate grammar and give it a new name. That way I don't have to recreate all the ratings again. And see, now spelling matches grammar. Oh yeah, also if you prefer to use point ranges for your ratings, you can check those on or off for each row. as you see fit. And even if you don't turn on ranges, I could always, when I'm grading, let's say that 20 and 12 are the options, but I really think they deserve a 15. I could just type 15 and Canvas is okay with that. I can always overwrite what the rubric says. All right, any other questions?
So the red plus button creates a new row for the ratings as well.
Yeah, it would add something between 20 and 12 if I did it right here.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. What else we got? All right, let me click update here. And let's talk about some analytics, and that's sort of the last part of this workshop. So 2 places I'd encourage you to look at is a
I'm sorry,
quick.
can I just stop you for just a sec?
Yeah.
Whenever I'm done grading the rubric, when I click update, it automatically saves and then goes into the gradebook, and I don't have to worry about clicking save somewhere else.
I was under the impression you had to click. So in the speed grader, there's a save button directly underneath the rubric.
Okay.
And you got to click that to lock in the rubric score.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep, no, good question. Don't want to grade all the papers to find out that you didn't. All right, so I'm going to go back to quizzes. And I'm going to pick this one, knowledge check grades. So we looked at moderate quiz already. I'm going to go to quiz statistics this time. And this only shows up if you've actually had people take the quiz. The quiz statistics is a great way just to see how your test is actually doing at assessing whether they're learning, your objectives or meeting your performance goals. And I will say that I was an art student, I have a BFA in painting, so I am exceedingly mediocre at math. So I appreciate this rich visual data. That's a lot easier for me to process. I won't say I'm bad at math, I'm just very, very mediocre at it. But I can see a breakdown of the score. I can see the low and the high. I can see the average time spent on the test. If I really want to get crunchy with my numbers, I can use a student analysis or item analysis. These are both CSV files that you can export and open up in Excel. I also get a question-by-question breakdown of how each person answered each question. And this goes back to why I like the fact that Canvas doesn't letter or number the answers for multiple choice questions. Because if you randomize the order of multiple choice questions in Blackboard, this data is useless because it will say, well, 5 people chose A, but for some of those people, A could have been one thing, and for some, A could have been a different thing. In here, the data is completely accurate, and it tracks it correctly. So I can see whether or not they answered, and if I click, I can see who didn't respond in this case. The only other thing I'm really going to stress out about is this discrimination index over here on the right, because it's a really big number, so I just want to call it out for you. And again, this is sort of how I think about discrimination indices. The index is a number that tells you how effective a question is at predicting whether someone passes the test or fails the test. That's what it is in this context. So the closer this number gets to 1, the more likely it is that people who got this question right passed the test overall, and people who got this question wrong failed the test overall. It's discriminating between who passed and who failed. The closer this question gets to -1, the weirder and worse it gets, because if it's below 0, that means that people who get this question right tend to fail your test, and people who get this question wrong tend to pass your test. And that's weird. So just keep in mind, you want this number to be above 0 and preferably closer to 1. In terms of making use of this number, here's how I think about it. I'd look at the questions, and I'd see if one question has a discrimination index that's noticeably different from the others, because that might mean that it's asking about different information than the rest of the test is. Or it could be that the way the answers are worded is throwing off someone who otherwise knows what they're talking about. Like something about the question is tripping them up when they really actually get the content that you're assessing. Yeah, so it's a big number, so I figured I should point it out there when you see it. All right, the other place I'm going to encourage you to look at for information about your course is under Home. So if you go to Home and your course is published, you get this really handy button called View Course Analytics. So in a published course, I'm on the home screen. I'm going to the right, directly beneath Student View, and I've got View Course Analytics. And from here, I get lots of information about how this course is performing overall. Actually, I'm going to switch to a course that's more recent because this hasn't been touched. Actually, never mind, people have been in it. So I can see week by week whether or not they've been looking at pages. or whether they've been actually doing things. So dark blue means that they've been submitting assignments, submitting discussions, taking tests, things like that. Light blue means they just had it open and they were just looking at content. Beneath that, for each assignment I have, I can see how many people are turning it in on time, how many people are late, and how many people just aren't turning it in, period. And then beneath that, I get a grade breakdown for each assignment as well. And you can see as I'm hovering, I'm getting more specific information as well. And then beneath all that, I get a list of every student in this course, and I can organize it so I see who has viewed the most pages in this course, which is Jean in this case. I can see who has submitted the most or done the most. And I can also see by score, like who has the highest score or who has the lowest score. So it's just a lot of information right up front. If I click on a student's name, like let me click on Rhonda, then I can see exactly when she was active in the course, and it's just her activity here. Beneath that, I can see every time that she messaged me or I messaged her using the Canvas inbox. So if you start all of your conversations using the inbox, your course will actually track that, so you have a clear history of communication that you can point out to a student. I can see when she turned things in. She turned in everything on time. Good job. I can get a grade breakdown as well. And if you really, really want to dig deep on what Rhonda's doing, I can click her name. And it's going to give me a play-by-play of everything she's ever done in this course. It's going to be something called an activity report or access report. So now I'm on Rhonda's page here, and I'm just going to click Access Report on the far right. If I click Access Report, I get a fully timestamped breakdown of everything that she did in chronological order. So I can see the last time she touched anything was August 21st at 10:54 a.m. She was in a group discussion when she did it, and that was the last time. And so you can know for a fact whether someone was on a particular page or on a particular test or not. I'll let you know that if it's within 24 hours, it will do like relative time. So instead of giving the exact timestamp, it'll say 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago, 5 minutes ago. After 24 hours, it converts to an absolute timestamp. All right, any questions about course analytics or quiz statistics I can talk about?
If you have links to articles or videos, will it show accessing those links by student?
Not exactly, no. So you can see if they went to the content page that it was on. You can't see if they actually clicked play on the video. If you come to Canvas Workshop 5, we're going to talk about a tool called Kaltura Video Quiz that I think can help with that. But this won't show you that they clicked a particular thing on a page.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, that sounds like a note. So that is everything that I have for this workshop. I want to say thank y'all so much. I really appreciate you coming to the workshop here. I was glad to get a chance to talk to y'all, and I hope that I get to see you at the next couple workshops that we have.
Real quick, you were going to cover off how to put in a lockdown browser.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. Yep. Thank you. Let me come back and do that.
I've got an 11 o'clock, so I got to leave. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. See you. So to do the lockdown browser, step 1 is that you'll go back to settings and navigation and make sure lockdown browser is turned on over here. And then once that's turned on, you're going to see all of your quizzes that you've set up inside your course. And from this point, it's really similar to Blackboard. You can, for any given quiz, click this little drop down, modify settings, and then choose to require response to lockdown browser. That's really it.
Okay, thank you for everything.
Yeah,
real quick, on that lockdown browser.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Thanks.
On the lockdown browser,
Uh-huh.
yeah, does it have the video on there as well? Do you know?
Yeah, so right where it says monitor webcam settings, once you've required the lockdown browser, you can require the monitor.
Where does all that? Well, I guess that's in the lockdown browser tool that you can go. I don't remember exactly where you go to get all the they do little snippets like every 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that's inside Lockdown Browser that you go and take a look.
And you can come back here to like view the recording if you want to, for instance. Yep.
Okay. All right. And that's more of a Canvas partner. You don't own Lockdown, obviously.
So could you say that again?
You're a Canvas. I mean, they're a partner to Canvas as far as Lockdown Browser goes, right?
Yeah, I mean, so the Respondus is its own company, just like it connects with Blackboard. So, yep.
Okay. Are you familiar with Alex and some of these like external quizzing tools? I'm sorry, I'm in the car.
Okay, I was wondering. It got very noisy all of a sudden. So
I think I'm the only one on here, so I don't. So it's just affecting me.
yeah,
But,
it's just us.
Yeah, the like Alex or some type of external quizzing tool. How does that integrate in with you guys? Or this quizzing tool? You actually create a quiz offline, I guess, and then you don't really use the quizzing tool inside of Canvas, I assume.
Yeah, so it's going to depend on the tool. So oftentimes what those companies will do is they'll build something called an LTI. It's a Learning Tools Interoperability. And what that is it's an integration with Canvas. So examples of LTIs are Lockdown Browser and Turnitin that we saw earlier. So if you've got a particular tool that you're interested in, you can click Settings and then go to Apps and see if your tool is listed here. If it is, then it can probably connect to Canvas in some way. Worst case scenario is that you just make an assignment and then link to the thing they're doing in the instructions for that assignment.
Along those lines, inside of the quiz tool, is there any type of adaptive testing where if they master a specific topic, I mean, I know there are external tools to do this, but within the Canvas quizzing tool, is there anything that says, hey, you've mastered this, and therefore we won't give you any more questions of that nature?
Oh, so within the quiz itself, no. But there is a thing called
adaptive.
Well, there are adaptive things. It's just not inside a quiz. There's this thing called learning mastery paths, and you can set it up so that depending on how they score on a test, you can give them different kinds of assignments. So someone who scores really low will get different assignments from someone who scores really, really well.
Oh, okay. Actually, that's what the master. Okay, because I saw that mastery path, I've kind of added it. I was wondering what that was about.
Yeah.
So if they don't do well on a particular assignment, you can create another path for them, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. And you need to just keep it all in the same module. So all the that first test and the paths all need to be contained in a module together. But yeah, you can set them on their own little track for what they need most.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, I actually have a tea time. No meeting, just a tea time.
Okay.
So I'm going to. I've got to find the golf course. I've never been to this one, so I'm going to sign out here. I think we've covered. Obviously, you've covered everything you want. I think I've covered everything I want, so I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks for showing up.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. See you.